Yeah.
No recording in progress.
Well, call the executive committee meeting to order. Second. Any discussion on the agenda?
Is it the amended agenda, you said?
Let's say no. The amended agenda, okay, is what you were moving?
Yes, of course. Okay.
That's of course what I was seconding. Any, we have a couple of closed sessions on here. So we can discuss the item, but we're not gonna go into closed session and come out and go back in. We'll just hold all the closed session. So we conduct the rest of it. Nothing else, all in favor?
Aye.
Carries. What are minutes of our October 13th meeting?
Second.
Second.
I did.
Discussion on the minutes? Not all in favor? Aye. Carries. Are there any public comment? Anybody in the other room with a comment? No?
Mr. Chair, I did get an email yesterday in the evening from Rory O'Sullivan, the attorney for the Fair Society. He indicated he was going to be coming today and would either speak during public comment or speak during the, actually, I just got an email from him right now. He's on his way. So,
He just may be here when we start that discussion.
So if you have questions for him, or maybe he has input, yesterday was the first time I've heard back from him, and I sent him several emails in the last month.
Any supervisors here not seated as committee members that have any information? Tracy's here and said he may want to comment when we start the discussion on the fair memorandum of understanding, and it can be in the full session too. All right, what's going on with our appointment of an acting clerk? Leading us to that.
We had several candidates put in their resume, and we staff went through looking at qualifications and so on. And I think Mr. Loso was putting together some documents for you. We think when we go into the closed session, we can share those names with you, give you kind of the highlights of each candidate, and then we can decide, or you can decide, do we want to meet them, interview them? We want to meet them in just a setting, just to get an acquaintance with them. If you did that, we'd have to do probably a special meeting or put it off for the whole month. And then we could go to the full board with your recommendation. So when we get into that closed session, we'll give you that information. In the meantime, I can tell you that Tammy Peterson, who you know, has done a great job being the acting clerk, working with Katie, Anna from the front desk who moved over. We also had support from Gail Wasberg from the Veterans Office and some others who came and helped with the election, and the reports from the election, things went smoothly. They worked through some issues. Lisa Ross did come in and help the evening of election night. Now we're doing the canvassing process after. So they're still very busy. But hats off to the staff that worked that. So when we get into closed session, you'll take a look at the candidates that we have kind of filtered and brought up to the top, and you can take a look, ask questions, comments, and so on. That's what we're going to do.
All right.
Number 7 needs to move to next month because I'm not here.
All right, we'll move that down to our subject matters for our next meeting.
If we go back to number 6, is that time sensitive? Is the only question I would ask for the clerk.
Not
That is it.
necessarily. I
Yeah.
think the biggest
Okay.
thing was the election and making it through that, and that worked with all the help of
Okay,
everyone.
so it isn't time sensitive. It does go by. Okay, that's all.
All right, is there anything we can discuss on the letter from Weld Riley?
So it was included in your packet. This is a letter from Attorney Anders Hellquist. He is also the same attorney that represents the Blue Rock Quarry in their conditional use permit application that is in front of the Environmental Services Committee that's in litigation. Former Chair Nelson appears to have hired Mr. Hellquist to represent him in his viewpoint that his First Amendment rights have been violated. The only legal action that is alleged or put forward in here is a 1983 action, basically saying, his First Amendment rights were violated such that there's a cause of action. For example, the county dealt with a 1983 action many years ago in the clerk of court's office when the person who won election for the clerk of courts was alleged to have pushed out somebody who ran against her for that position. So retaliated against that person for running for office in an employment setting. We can talk about what I believe the merits of this claim are in closed session, but that's the long and the short of the letter. There is a public records request attached to the letter. I've been working with the county and Amy to make sure that we're responding with whatever responsive records exist and complying with that part of the letter.
All right, so we are gonna discuss that in closed session.
That's where I would like to share what the merit that I think this has and the strategy that we could take if you wanted to as the committee. I mean, this committee is named in as much as the violation that is alleged is the fact that the ethics complaint was on this committee's agenda several meetings in a row. And so if you as a committee are concerned about claim against the committee, we can talk about that as well.
Yeah. Okay, then the merits of 83 action would be closed session.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, shall we jump over the fair memorandum of understanding and
Wait until Mr. O'Sullivan is here.
or shall we complete our other items and then?
No,
All right, how about the divisional utilization of fiscal information?
Right, so this has been a topic of discussion the last few meetings, and last meeting I brought a draft editorial calendar that would have at each board meeting an opportunity for one of the divisions to present information, key performance indicators, outcome measures from the department or the overall division. So I think we reviewed that, and I'd like to propose that we have at the November meeting of the county board, have our IT director come in and talk about some of the performance indicators that he uses within his shop, and also talk about the capability that we have overall to dashboards and statistical analysis. We've got that as an agenda item on the county board meeting for the 15th. Happy to answer any questions about it. The division directors seem to be on board with the idea. So I think it's just a matter of, this is the way the executive committee and board want to go, that we just fill in those. We take that draft agenda, or draft editorial calendar, meetings calendar, and solid it up. So if that's satisfactory for a way to move forward, then we'll start to get that calendar filled out. It's draft right now, all the way through the end of next year, but we don't have firm commitments from departments or divisions to report. So we can start working on that. First one would be from IT.
I continue to like this.
Would it be at every meeting or are we gonna split it up?
Well, the way we had it on the draft calendar is that each division would have 3 slots a year. So 4 meetings, 12 meetings, 4 divisions, 3 slots per division. So just from general government, we present CJC data, CJCC data, or HR data, or IT data. Mo has the license to do what he wants, but just to make something up, he might talk about roads that he's, miles of roads that he's covering and the amount of salt he's putting on the roads and how many trucks he's got out. Whatever performance measures are important to highway. You think of how the sheriff might do that as well. Community Services Division is already working on this with information about their workforce and its engagement. So I think the divisions are starting to think this way. It's just a matter of getting them on the calendar and getting them in, but it'd be every month unless there's no time or something else. Be ready to do that.
Anybody else have a comment? All right, what do we got on our work plan?
If, November, we have had nothing on the original work plan. In December, we start developing the 23 work plan. I think for next month, we'll see what happens today. If we have more information regarding the fair, information regarding ethics policy, obviously that will be next month, correct? Leah?
Yes.
And then we'll also be working on the 23 plan, just a heads up, a couple of the things that we, from this committee standpoint, we will start moving forward quickly on developing our performance review. You'll start hearing about it, our process, evaluating performance and coaching performance. That should be kicking in early next year. So we'll start talking about that. The other thing that we'll start working on this year, or 23, which is unique, is resetting our priorities. If you recall, 3 years ago, we set longer term priorities on the board. We're developing the process now on how to move that forward and take a look at our current priorities and determining what you may or may not want to replace it.
Anybody else have anything?
Are we going through MOUs and so on that too, or is that,
Yes,
we doing that today or is that next month?
we can do that next month.
So that's it.
Normally we do the ones financial with general government and the executive committee. We could
Do those MOUs, the bigger ones or something that.
Bigger MOUs.
Are you talking just the non-monetary or?
Well, we should go through some of them. We did it. I'm trying to think when we did it last.
For example, we have been per our master plan that we did with Parks and Trails and submitted to DNR. We said we will reach out to local stakeholder groups to see if they want to participate in an MOU. Friends of the Stour initially indicated that this has been a while ago, and we said, well, as long as we're in a legal dispute with you, we're not going to do that. Friends of the Gandy have reached out, and we have been working on the final details of that. And I think we have come to an agreement. We haven't signed anything yet, but it's non-financial, it's non-binding in terms of what it's just an agreement. We're going to work to keep that trail enhanced or to keep it in good shape. We may disagree, but there's an easy out at any point if it gets to be, any problem. But we think it's going to be a positive thing. But if that's something you would like to review, we could bring that as well as off the top of my head.
I mean, the MOU with the DNR is a part of the litigation, so I don't think we should mess with that.
Should check some of those, because what happened is they all got old. I mean, Andy one all of a sudden is 30 years old and now we're fighting over. The fair one is 30 years old, we're fighting over. I mean, we gotta keep up with some of this stuff.
In that MOU, for example, though, we have, it's a 1 year at a time deal. And there's also, if there's any problem, we're fighting and it's not being productive, then we can give 30 days notice, I think, or get out.
And are you suggesting that in December we had a conversation about MOUs?
I think we should.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
December?
maybe someone forgot about something. We have the trails there. I mean, look at how long we've been working on some of these that are so old together.
Yeah, if we get like a list of the MOUs,
I
if
think
you
I
have
have
them, if you have it,
Well,
Yeah, Robert, remember we put that list together?
hundreds.
There's hundreds of them, but we had that list and we took the major one.
Yeah, let me review what the major ones were, but I mean, general government will review things like,
Rentals.
tourism and the MOUs with the groups that we sponsor with funding and that type
Yeah.
of thing. But with this committee, we could bring the other non-financial ones.
Yeah.
I'll bring some.
Well, if we go into a closed session, there'll be no more discussion. Are we gonna wait a couple minutes or? what do
take a 5-minute break or something, or I don't know.
I just wonder if he thought the meeting started at 9.
10 or 10, we had a couple people come in the other day and they thought, not this meeting, it was 10 o'clock. I think they, and this person said the amendment for the website was wrong.
That was yesterday. The website said 10 o'clock. Not yet, human services.
When was that? Human services.
Yeah, the website said 10 and we started at 9.
Yeah.
So what is the website? Yeah, why don't you, do you want to take a 5-minute break?
Good luck.
Yeah, we've been in session here for 20 minutes
Yeah.
already.
Union break.
Do for a break.
It was so arduous.
My pen is pretty hot, yeah.
Without discussing it, do we have the fair stuff, do we have paperwork that you're gonna give us?
I'm sorry.
You have paperwork,
On the
you have
topic
the
of fair.
MOUs that you're gonna share with us, the original MOU, the MOU the fair sent us, and the one that you wrote.
Right, I think the only thing that we were gonna be talking about as far as, I mean, I can give those to you again. I didn't print them for today, but
I
just
got them
what
from
date?
Joe one.
You can look
Right.
at mine.
I would think that the committee should have those documents in front of them so that we can get on with this thing. How can we go, maybe I'm getting too far into it now.
Oh, it's okay.
Well, let's stop.
I mean, how can we go ahead if they don't have, if we don't talk about that document? I mean, we're going for months here, for the Christ's sake, we ain't getting nothing done. I mean, we should have the documents right in front of us today, and we should say, how do you like this sentence? If we don't like it, Leah, you don't like it, Joe don't like it, they don't like it. Okay, what do we gotta change?
I don't know.
I mean, we're getting absolutely nowhere on this thing, and we're looking bad, in my opinion. I mean, we gotta get on with it. I
Has the
mean,
fair sent theirs? Rebuttal or not yet? That's what I think we're waiting for.
they sent it,
They sent it.
yeah, their attorney was supposed to send it to you. Now, we'll get to the bottom of this here shortly. You're supposed to have their changes. The original MOU portion is there.
You're gonna allow Rory in the closed session?
No, then there would be no point to have it.
But what information could he possibly share with us?
So for the last several months, we've been inviting him. We invited him last month. We said, come and talk to us about what your client, where we're at. And then I had sent an email, I had sent 2 or 3 emails in the last month to him. One saying that this is, I'm going to be advising the committee that going forward with Janice as the president is going to be very difficult for various reasons. Please share that with your constituents. Never heard back from him. I emailed him about a concern about a rental of one of the county buildings that is being used to rent to a third party who then sub-rents to other clients, and it's not a protected building. It doesn't have locks on it. The windows are open. And so my concern is about the double liability. Not only could we be sued by the entity renting from the fair, but the entities renting from the person renting from the fair. And I emailed that to him saying, these are concerns, and I haven't heard back. Literally last night at 6:45 was the first time I've heard from him saying, hey, am I on the agenda for tomorrow? Can I come? And I said, the MOU is on the agenda. You can speak during public comment unless the committee invites you up to engage in a conversation. But we've been asking for dates when we can have his client, like we did the last time, maybe 6 months ago, where we caucused, we went back and forth, and we said, this is our last best offer. This is your last best offer. Where can we agree and have tentative agreements and put this what we're arguing about? So that's what we've been trying to nail down. We don't have that. But then last night he said, hey, I'm coming tomorrow. I don't know if his intention is to try to bargain with us today. That is not on the agenda, a bargaining session, but it's the MOU is. So if he wants to say these are our bottom lines, because right now the issue is the city is saying you can put the grandstand in the old footprint. The last time the city said you can't. You tore it down, and now the setbacks are you've got to move it, which was one of the reasons why we had to move the grandstand, the new proposed grandstand, to a different footprint. But the city right now is saying you don't need to have new setbacks. You can put it there. So right now is the time to kind of jump on it if we want to have the grandstand in that old footprint while the city is on board with that. And so not being able to get to the end of this MOU is hurting everybody, especially the folks who want a grandstand. So that's kind of where we've been with the fair.
And as the rep for them, I have encouraged them that this was a good time, that there was additional money given from the 23 budget, that there was some favorable comments around the table, that there seems to be support for the fair. This is the time to get this done. But we don't get nowhere. So we got to get somewhere. I mean, sooner or later.
Millie, is the MOU that you're referring, is it this one?
Yes, I mean, it looks like it from far.
Yeah.
But I think Joe is printing a red line version for it.
It just seems to, while I'm not involved directly with this, is we need to hear kind of what's transpiring, types of issues we're having before we go in and start negotiating the lines of this. So we're just trying to, I think today's an opportunity we can say, here are some things that are on our mind that are important for you to know as you go into line by line negotiation.
So the outcome you guys are saying you want today is for us to look at this MOU, hear from Rory, and then go home and ponder the red line suggestion, and then come back?
Sure, what my understanding is that they're having elections for leadership at the fair. What staff has run into with current leadership at the fair, there's issues with keys. There's issues with us, the county, being able to access the property. There's issues with work they've contracted to have done by a family member of the president. And the work wasn't done to code. The work was done inappropriately. We're having to go back in, redo it at a much higher cost. It's issues.
Yes, and that's why I'd like to bring up those issues in closed session. As it pertains to the MOU and how it reflects on what we go forward with financial and what we should require. But I'd rather do that in closed session.
All right,
But
well,
Dan,
let's,
we've only had one session, halfway with them.
Right.
let's take a break, but how long are we gonna, we're not waiting until 10.
No, I could give him a call. I've got his phone number right here.
All right, let's take a break till a couple minutes after 9. And if nothing's going, we can go in closed session. Got a couple other items, we can come out if we need to and go back.
That's what I was thinking. Go in and come back out.
All right, let's take a 5-minute break. All right, we're back in session. We're gonna go into closed session on a couple of different items here.
Can I make the motion then to go into closed session?
You know,
That is for 1985 1G and then 1985 1E, so we can do both. Is that the two that we have? Or is it the 1C also? So we can do all three, just in case we say,
Yes, but are we gonna,
we're gonna come back to the one, but I mean, if
Go
we
in
have
and
all three, we can discuss them while we're in. So we have 1985 1C, G, and E. Then if anything comes up, we'll say in closed session.
First, aren't we gonna do 8A?
yeah, we're gonna go into 8A, we're gonna come back out so that we can check with the lawyer. And then we're gonna go back into closed session for 9.
We're not doing 8,
8, we're gonna do 8 now.
8 and 9, aren't we?
Nope.
Or 8A, or
8A.
6A. Are we doing that one too?
6A. The motion is to go in for all three. If we come out at any time, we'll go back in. We need,
Yeah, then we're covered.
we just need a second.
Yeah. Was that? Which one wants to?
Just pick one.
Okay.
All right, it's supposed to be a voice vote to go in.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yeah. All right, we'll be in closed session. Who will be, is anyone in the room excluded from it, Malia? Doug stay on, or how does that work?
Yeah, so if there are other folks on. I can't. Doug should be able to stay. I don't see any reason why. Bob,
Charlie.
I think Bob could stay as staff.
Charlie, not.
Charlie and that Caitlin Schultz should go.
More people in, the more can get let out, so decide that we should be deciding it stays pretty small.
Any supervisors
We're
can
getting-
be in the closed
Yeah.
session.
Can't shut them out. If we start getting too many people in and too much stuff, we're gonna cut our own throats here. That's why it's a closed session.
Well, don't forget about the public shaming tool we have.
The one, that's why she's
Yeah.
gonna keep it confidential
Yeah.
minutes from the closed session.
Oh, we don't have that yet, do we?
We don't have it yet.
Oh, Next month,
We will, sure.
next month. All right, so you stop recording. We're back in open session. We're gonna take a 5-minute break. And I'm not gonna meet. So, there. Discussion. Of the fair memorandum of understanding. Maybe we'll just let you.
Well, this is Mr. O'Sullivan, who is the attorney for the Fair Society. And I guess that's all I know as far as what. Like, do you have questions for the committee? Does the committee have questions for?
It's one of those things I was like, attorney Lozo and I were speaking probably 3 months ago now. And the plan was that I would person sort of draft memorandum of understanding and send it to him and maybe he'd react to it. And then I'd come to this meeting and you guys might have comments, we can kind of try to hammer something out. And then loads of things happened, it was, I needed to get instructions from my client, from the Fair Society about what they wanted to see in the new memorandum of understanding, which is MOU. And then they're going through some flux. They're having their own elections right now. And I think the elections are scheduled for like the 14th of this month. So they're not even, I don't even know who necessarily the composition of the board is going to look like after those elections. But I figured, so, it's one of those things I probably could have canceled, said, okay, I don't need to go to the executive committee. But I figured it would be a good opportunity to, because I think it's a good opportunity for us to kind of reset this conversation and like start out where, maybe educate the committee about how we got to the point we are now and what sort of concerns or challenges are that we deal with going forward. So the actual committee is, who's on the actual committee? 5 people. Okay, and
I
then,
think we're educated. I think your committee is.
well, that's probably
I
true
mean,
to
you
an
went
extent.
through it about 5 times here and we're just hearing the same thing. We haven't heard nothing new.
This is
Do you have
the,
anything new?
no,
Well, then educate us about nothing. Then.
okay, well, maybe,
Well, what is it? I mean, how many times have we went through this from day one to the first MOU to this one? We're hearing the same thing at every meeting. I mean, we've heard nothing new. I mean, here we sit, nothing new again. We got our representative goals, nothing new is there either. I mean, here, we're all sitting, that's why nothing is getting done. So how are you gonna educate us on nothing?
okay, well, I don't know, I guess maybe I.
Tell me, just give us the same BS and we'll listen. How's that? I mean, it's just terrible that we just keep going back to day one and say, here's how the fight started. I got a stack of papers this high, how the fight started. And that's all we've heard every meeting.
Okay, so here's, how are we, let me ask this question. Going forward, how does the county want to interact with the Fair Society? Like, who's gonna be dealing with who? Is it me dealing with Malia? Is it the executive committee dealing with their executive committee? Is it the entire board dealing with their entire board? Like, where's the interface between the two organizations?
Right
It's
now, we have a
always been-
representative.
It's always been, the Fair Society has never had an attorney.
Right.
Yeah.
We've dealt with the Fair Society forever. And all of a sudden, they've hired an attorney. Well, we don't deal with the Fair Society anymore. We were told we can't even talk to them.
Sure.
Well, the only person we can talk to is their attorney.
Well, I'm really happy for you to talk to the Fair Society. I don't have a problem.
I thought we had a do not communicate with them.
Well, that's-
We were to not even try to.
Sure, that's,
Now it's okay to?
so where that's coming from is that if someone is like an organization or a person is represented by an attorney, then the attorneys are supposed to be the like the sort of hubs for communication. So theoretically, Attorney Malone or Attorney Loso and I are supposed to be where the communication happens. And that's probably a failure more than anything else. And one that I didn't recognize until you pointed it out now. Because, you know, maybe that's a source of frustration. But the question that I need answered, or what I'm hoping to have answered at some point, is we're going to have this new memorandum of understanding. Never mind today, in going forward in future, how, once the attorneys are gotten rid of, the attorneys are gone, how are the county and the Fair Society expecting to communicate with each other? Like you said, we always spoke to the Fair Society. But when you say we, you mean like members of the board?
The committee, they reported to the committee and they needed something, they got on the agenda and they came to their committee meeting. If it was financial, it may have to go to the county board for approval. Committees can't approve or just give money, the county board.
Which committee was it?
Well, it's probably personnel.
Well, general
Well,
government.
personnel, it used to be, it was personnel and then there was finance.
Then they merged into general government.
Yeah, no, but
Well, this all started because the grandstand wasn't getting built. Why did that happen? Why did that not happen?
But that, so, do you mind if I speak?
no, but
So we passed a resolution to build the grandstand, putting in, I can't remember, 1 point whatever million, which was the estimate at the time.
Yeah.
County got Cedar Core. We were told by the city of St. Croix Falls, cannot put it in the same footprint because setbacks, you tore down the other building, you're gonna have to move the grandstand. So we moved the grandstand, then the Fair Society said, we want a grandstand that's twice as big as the one you removed. So then we hired Cedar Core, we started doing all of the preliminary work. And then boom, got a letter from your counterpart, Mr. Newhouse, saying, no longer want the grandstand. We want you to walk away. We want $600,000 for all of these, like, here's all the money that we think you as the county owe us, and we want nothing more to do with you. So at that point, the county said, well, we're not going to continue with the grandstand project. Honestly, when we were told that Mr. Newhouse was hired by the fair, we thought he was being hired to negotiate the MOU, and like, we're like, finally, we'll have somebody who knows how to negotiate back and forth. And then this demand letter of get out or we're going to sue you and we want all this money. And so that's That's the historical perspective. Then when you took over from Mr. Newhouse, and all of a sudden they didn't want the new larger grandstand, they wanted a smaller grandstand, the same size as the one that was removed. The city is now saying, we no longer care about those setbacks. You can put the grandstand in that same footprint. So right now is probably like the sweet spot as far as the grandstand, if all parties could come to the table and get along, because now's the time to jump while the city is saying you don't need to worry about setbacks, and we will allow you to put it in that whole footprint. The problem is we don't have plans for that grandstand because we already spent a ton of money doing all the plans for the much larger grandstand in a completely different spot. So there's that. In addition to that, and I don't know how deep we want to get into it, I had sent you that email about the concern about leadership at the fair. And I don't know if that's been communicated to the full fair board, given their elections. But if they have new blood or a fresh perspective, you know, it might make things easier. But honestly, I think right now is the time, if we can get an MOU and an agreement with reasonable people on both sides, if the grandstand is the goal, now's the time, because of where the city is now saying we don't have to worry about setbacks. But we would have to start from scratch, in as much as that's not the plans that we paid for. That's not the studies that we've done. We did the study on that much larger grandstand that we were ready to start breaking ground on and you know, putting out bids for when we got the letter from Mr. Newhouse.
Okay, so
So it's two separate issues. It's the grandstand and an MOU. The grandstand should have nothing to do with the MOU. The MOU is with everything that happens there and everything. The grandstand should be standalone.
I agree to a
So
point.
then, but we're
Supervisor
throwing the
O'Connell.
two in there, and that's the fight.
The reason why the two are in there is, why would the county invest millions of dollars in a grandstand with an organization that they don't have a relationship
That's
with
why
and
we
they're
should
not
have
gonna
the
have?
MOU first and then the grandstand. We should have
Which
an MOU
which
and a
means they
business
are tied.
plan, all
I
that.
agree, which means they are tied then.
then, I
No,
mean,
then that happens afterward.
but to answer the question, if you do that, then you're holding hostage the grandstand while
Not
you're,
really.
while you're negotiating the MOU. And to answer your question, the reason you spend
Well,
all the
then
money on the
every building-
grandstand is
every
because you have an
building should have an
obligation to,
MOU.
under the terms of the existing MOU. For instance, 2016, it hasn't been there since like, when was it demolished? In 2017, I think? Tracy, you know? I mean, it's not been there for years. You have a legal obligation to rebuild it. It's not been done. All the palaver with St. Croix Falls is neither here nor there. There's no explanation for it. You got half a decade. Why has it not been built? Because you're like, oh, well, we have to do an MOU. You can't hold that hostage.
But when the letter came from Mr. Newhouse saying, we don't want you to build the grandstand, we want you to give us the money, we're demanding all of this money, we're gonna sue you for it. Why would we then continue to build a grandstand?
You had an obligation to, even then.
We were told by Mr. Newhouse not to.
I am trying to fix that. Or let's say we'll take all that blame and we'll put it on me or Attorney Newhouse. That's neither here nor there.
I don't think it's you or Attorney Newhouse. I think it is the leadership of the fair board, to be completely honest.
Yes, well, the leader of the fair board may or may not. I mean, I communicated the email to the people that I'm in contact with at the fair board, the email that you sent. So they have that information. I don't know what they're going to do with it. They have their election.
Can I ask a question about that? So looking back on this. So, as you were asking where to communicate. So how does the communication work on the fair board then? So for example, this email about the county concerns around the leadership.
Right.
Does that email go, who do you talk to, one person? When your emails go out?
I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, okay. So I'm just trying to understand, what I'm trying to
honest,
understand is whether or not, because I'm getting word that the majority of the fair board is kind of in the dark about, for example, this leadership email that Malia sent. And it's, you know, we didn't hear anything back on it, and then we're hearing that the board doesn't know.
Well, I cannot control the internal machinations of the fair. Where I communicated it to the organization, my client, and I told them that it should be communicated to the membership because that's what Malia asked me to do. What they did with it is not my purview. It's not my business. It would feel like the internal operations of the
Well, I think
organization.
that's kind of the crux of what we're concerned about. I think that's really at the foundation of where we can move this relationship forward on. And if it's just dead ending somewhere, I'm kind of concerned about that. And that's what I'm having the feeling that might not here. That's why my question. So, but if you can't answer it, then I have to kind of just go, you're saying.
Right. I mean, I can answer it. I won't, I'm be perfectly frank, I won't answer it
Well, that's
because
fine.
I'm not sure that I should answer it. you
Yeah,
know?
that's fine. I get that.
But when I talk about like communication, what was actually done in the past is different than what was like, even what was done under the MOU. So that, and like, come back to you, you said, well, we would talk to them. And by that you meant that representatives of the Fair Society would come and make presentations, it sounds like, at the General Government Committee. That's not what the MOU contemplated. The actual communication was different than what the MOU had said. And what I'm asking, and certainly is different than the communication now, because everything's being done through the attorneys, which nobody seems particularly satisfied with. So my question is, if we're going to redraft this MOU, which is what you ultimately want, or even we do the grandstand, then in this MOU, if it were to be followed, who is going to speak to who? Like if we, and this comes back to your point, that you're like, we're going to say this MOU is going to spell out the communications in the relationship. Then do you want to have it say that the executive committee is going to be liaising directly with some sort of executive committee from the Fair Society? Do you want to have a separate committee solely to deal with the Fair Society? Like, is it going to be done through Corporation Council? Like, what is the, if I'm going to redraft this MOU and you know, satisfy the concerns of the county? The first question, I mean, my clients, here's what my clients' wants are. Okay, the first thing that they want to maintain control of the actual fair grounds. They want to have exclusive control over those fairgrounds. If anything is going to happen with those fairgrounds, they want it to be a mutual decision between the county and the Fair Society. And then ultimately, in order to have that mutual decision reached, they need to know where the contact is. Who from the county is going to be speaking with who from the Fair Society?
That's
That
my
would be the
point.
committee
The
that
whole-
would be under the general government committee. And then if they need money, they would go to the full board, just like any other outside agents.
But my point is the whole thing screeches to a halt if this email is not getting past one or two people. It's just dead in the water. I mean, if the email comes from our council that says we have a concern about leadership and leadership is the only person you're talking to and it's not right there. What, I'm just sort of stuck.
Just a couple clarity things. One on the grandstand and why the grandstand stopped.
Yeah.
Just for clarity, we did hire Cedar Corp to design the new grandstand and the MPA pulling track, the fair specifications of what they wanted.
Yeah.
All that was done. We were at the final stages before going out for bids. We submitted with the fair and Cedar Corp the CUP to the city, which was a document approximately 1.25 inches thick of all the things that happened. The city responded back to that with questions. So Cedar Corps and the fair were working on those final questions. Get the CUP through so they have their public comment and all this stuff to go through their things. We could go out to bids and build it. Then the letter came from the attorney saying that there's no communication now. So we were right on track with that one. When you talk about communication with the fair, I think you need to separate out one, repair day-to-day activities versus request for financing. That if they're gonna have a special event, change something on a building, whether that runs through Public Works, whether that runs through a committee, whether it comes through Public Works, then to a committee to the fair, I think that's that needs to be decided on that chain of command. If it's financial budget, financial audit review of finances, does that go straight to the committee then? That's more of a committee function, looking at the finances.
Mhm.
So I think it's just not the committee contacts only with Dawn and no one else. You know, I think you need to have that, what are you actually communicating in back and forth?
And then it goes somewhere else.
Right, because I don't think the committee wants to hear that we had to repair a window at the fairgrounds and wait for a month to get that approved for that needs to go through Public Works. So I think that needs to be, but I want to make it clear that as far as why the grandstand stopped, the county was ready to do that. Their fair would have been in the brand new grandstands. We were on track. We spent just shy of $90,000 for design for construction plans with that, and we were at that stage.
One is that when we were here earlier this year, I forget the exact month, we kind of tentatively agreed that we were going to have Cedar go out and prepare plans for the grandstand in its original location. And that withered on the vine as well. I mean,
No, I don't remember us, getting direction to have Cedar Corps redo their drawings for the grandstand in that spot. The question was raised and I said, remember, we have Cedar Corps on contract to design the grandstand. But at that point, we did not have marching orders to have them look at that. My recollection.
Okay.
And I could be wrong.
But we're gonna separate them. Maybe the first order of business then is, are we gonna separate the grandstand from the MOU? or not? Because if we're gonna separate the two, let's get started on the grandstand. Like, let's get the plans done, let's get the CUP and let's get the damn thing built. That's actually,
The MOU is for, we don't even know if they're gonna be there tomorrow.
but even if they're not, you have an obligation to rebuild. the
No, we
grandstand.
don't. We have an MOU. We go by it. You broke it as much as we did. So I mean, that's here or there. That's for lawyers to sit and argue over nothing. We're done with that, I think. The MOU, we have to write an MOU of how this place is gonna be run. It's not run correctly. It doesn't have a business plan. They haven't answered any of how much money they have. That they repair the stuff. We gotta get down to that. We're skipping over everything and just build a grandstand and it's gonna run like it always does.
Well, if you build the
It's
grandstand,
running terrible. There's $600,000 in the account. And they're asking for 20,000. And they're supposed to be doing the repairs and then they do the repairs wrong.
the repairs are to be done by, so the repairs under the MOU, regardless of what you actually were doing. Under this MOU, the repairs were to be done by mutual agreement.
Correct.
Oh.
Was it done by mutual agreement?
Well,
They were not.
Okay,
So
so there
there's
was one
one.
agreement between the Polk County Property, Forestry and Rec Committee and the Polk County Fair Society. That's how it was supposed to be done. Nobody was doing that. Before the attorneys got involved, before the grandstand was demolished. I think it's clear to me that that's not what was happening.
They came to that committee, which is now Environmental Services. And it was Mr. Wood was the president, and he would always ask for money and stuff. And then we'd go to general government or finance, get the money.
That's not what the MOU said.
Well, because the different, now it's different committees.
Okay.
We have different committees now. That committee is combined. So we went to a different organizational setup. So the fair was under environmental services for a while, then it went to general government. And they reported to neither. They did what they want when they wanted and then complained. And that's all recorded. We have pages of that. So that's what has to be fixed. Like you said, who's gonna communicate? When they just show up at budget time, oh, we need 50,000. Okay, budget time is here, it's November, not December 1st.
But that's exactly.
That's the MOU.
That's
And
exactly
we
the
haven't
problem.
went
You're
by.
right. We reorg the county and then you go to this different model that, a county administrator as opposed to being directly run from the county
Correct.
board. And then you don't update the MOU. The MOU still contemplates direct liaison with the board as opposed to working through administration.
Yeah,
And then to come back to your point, you're saying you don't want to hear about every broken window and like small repair, and that's fair. But the MOU doesn't have that. It requires you to hear about everything because everything is done in collaboration with the committee, directly with the county board. And so, yeah, sure. And even the Fair Society would say, look, we didn't get all the money even we were supposed to get under the existing MOU because they would submit financing requests or funding requests. And one of the complaints that I've heard from my client is that they didn't get the money that the county was obligated to pay them for some of the repairs and work that was done. Now, I don't want to speak totally out of turn, but I put it in my letter to Leah last year that they figured like it was
600,000.
no for work that wasn't done. It was I had it as
And they have 600,000.
say again.
And they have 600,000. They're supposed to be able to pay for it. I mean, it's just.
What about these 600,000? Like that's not there when the MOU requires you to rebuild this grandstand. Fundamentally, that's the question he's going to answer is, are you going to hold hostage the MOU for the rebuilding of the grandstand?
We're not holding hostage. We don't have.
Get back to your point though. When the fair would request funding for me for repair,
Yeah.
they asked, we have funding over this, can you pay for that?
Yeah.
I never denied one of them.
Well, I'm not saying you did. They're saying it's just money didn't.
They're
come.
saying, they're saying I did. They deserve this money for repairs they requested. Every request I received, I approved as long as because it was in the budget. They'd asked, do you have money in this for this? Yes, we do. Go ahead with the repairs.
I just know, here's my record. My record.
I just want to say that.
You know, I agree with you. All I know is what I'm being told from my client. My client told me that you approved requests, or the county approved requests between 2016 and 2021, $244,000. Those were approved, but what was actually paid was $171,000. So there was like a $70,000 shortfall for, like, even though the request was approved, the money wasn't actually received.
Was the work done?
I don't know.
Well, that's here to say that's the point. The work wasn't done. That's why they.
You don't know where it was or wasn't done.
Well, I asked you and you didn't know.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it was or it wasn't. You said, oh, but it wasn't done. But I'm not
I
saying it
asked,
was.
was it or not?
I don't know.
So-
But
so-
you said it wasn't. I said I don't know.
Well,
Geez.
we can
Well,
pick a
if it
side on
was
that.
done- If it was done, we would have been billed for it.
Yeah.
We would have paid our bill.
And David, but you're trying to fall back on an old MOU, didn't get updated because we reorganized and did all these things. We probably have
It's just
500 of these and it happened.
That's just wording.
It's just the
We
wording.
gotta,
We gotta
gotta
change it
draft.
and make it right, make it work.
yeah, I mean, I beg people on the fair board as the representative from the county board,
Right
from the
there.
fair board. Let's sit down and get this thing hammered out. We go through it line by line and get it hammered out. They won't come. Send you,
Well,
you know, I don't understand. I mean, we could.
I don't want to hear it. I know.
Do it. I mean,
We can.
Trying to do it with two groups of people is impossible. It really does need to just be like two representatives. And I don't even want to be that person. Like, I'd rather have, because I don't want to speak to the fair society, because I don't know what they actually, fundamentally, I do my best to try to understand what it as an organization wants. But there's so many moving parts. I'm not a member of the society. I would prefer to have a representative. I'd like to have a representative from the county. And then we can sit down and hopefully hammer the thing out instead of having a cast of thousands trying to do this. When there's too many people, there's this huge amount of inertia, you know, it can't be done. But, you know, the problem then is that who is that person? Who is that representative? Because certain members of the fair society, if, you know, if I was told this person is going to be the representative from the fair society, if it's the wrong person from the county's point of view, then, you know, apparently that's not going to be productive. You know, that's
It's
what,
the same as-
that's what this email.
And they did the same thing.
I know they did. I know.
They said they would come if Malia wasn't in the room, he wasn't in the room and that. I mean, they already did that to us once.
Okay.
So I mean, they already started the game. You know, deciding who can do it and who can't. I mean, if we all work and we're supervisors from the county,
Mhm.
could be any one of them. They shouldn't be able to say, Russ, you can't be there. You can't be there. You voted against this before, so Amy, you can't be there. Tracy now isn't gonna be there, so she can't be on that committee.
Mhm.
I mean, is that right? They can pick and choose who can be on the committee that
Okay.
they want.
So if we say sauce for the gander is sauce for the goose, then you guys can like veto certain representatives. If they similarly can veto representatives from the county, does that make sense? Is that the mechanism? for
They want to go back to 3 meetings to have one.
Then I'm like, you want to, look, I'm trying to meet you halfway. You're saying you want an MOU before you build a grandstand. I'm asking, fine, we'll negotiate a new MOU. How? How are we going to negotiate it?
Get the groups together, then
No,
let's try
this
it
isn't
with
going anywhere.
You already denied me, so
Wait,
it's-
wait, hold
my
on.
idea isn't right. So somebody else had an idea. I just said get the groups together.
So we started on a process that I've done both sides that kind of got comfortable with, which was what we had in April or whenever our first meeting when the fair board came, right, and the executive came, whatever that was. And then we were gonna have another one that got canceled. And then nothing ever got rescheduled. So what if we finish that process, went back to that process where we started, it seemed like it was heading down a potentially a good place. I mean, we were all in the same room and nobody was yipping at each other and, you know, walking out. It seemed like it was working and then we just haven't rescheduled something. So let's reschedule something, get it on the board, on the calendars, start through. I assume this is what is the document that what Joe handed out, is this the one that has the fair boards? These
That document is the original proposed MOU that was sent to the Fair Board in April of 2020. And then it has a red line, basically merge of the counter that was provided by
the fair board in May or April of this year.
So that would be what we would start with now. So we would go back to the model that we started with. Let's go back to that train track with that document, put everyone in the room and say, I like this, I don't like that. And it may be more than a cast of numbers that want, but it might be, we started on that track.
Sure.
Let's
Well, I'm happy to
maybe
go back to
finish
it.
it. And
Okay.
see if it'll work with the fair board. But back to my point, which is if the fair board communication isn't hearing the leadership discussion that we're saying, and then that's who's coming to the room, then I don't know where that puts us. I mean,
Yeah, but
That's
You know, we
five
started
paragraphs. Five damn paragraphs.
we-
We don't agree to it. It's ridiculous that we're going through all this.
I know, I think-
mean, I just counted them and looked at it and looked at this, and we have 5 paragraphs. And we're spending this much time on 5
I
paragraphs, we
think we
can't
can
get
get
it done.
I agree. I think we can get this done before we even get the bids wet for the grandstand.
Because it's a grand standard.
This will take so much less time than grand. So we'll just get that done. We can have this done.
Let's,
But then why don't get started with Johnson too, though? I mean, you have to at some point, we will. I mean, let's get.
let's get her back, let's get her back to our meeting here. We're having at least 3 conversations going
sorry.
at the same time. Malia, are we okay if we would say, and I think that was our committee, we had the executive committee that was appointed by the county board, and I think the Fair Society had appointed their executive board. And neither party, we can make tentative agreements. I mean, that we need to take back to the full county board, and I would guess the Fair Society executive board would need to do the same, take it back to their full committee and get it ratified. So can we meet the executive committee of the county and the executive committee of the fair?
yes,
Meet and work on the MOU. We can have discussions on the grandstand. I mean, while we're meeting, I mean, just meet again. We had a meeting, got canceled, we never got another one.
Yeah, we've only had one.
Let's just set a meeting. You
Okay.
set a meeting?
Not during here.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'll just make sure that they're there. It's. Again, I don't know who's gonna be on the executive committee following these elections on Monday, so.
Yeah, the same thing. If we were in elections, we wouldn't know either.
Yeah, that's fine.
So set it for after their elections, and if they have the same executive board, that's fine. If it's a different one, bring them
How much notice do you need?
for a meeting.
Well, from open meetings law, we would need to have at least 24 hours notice, but I think picking a few days so that he can bring that back so that there's a few options and we can just post it as soon as there's an agreement. That's probably the most efficient use.
Okay,
And maybe just pull up our meeting calendar and stay away from.
Oh, we can do it, if it fits on our meeting. I mean, we'd had a 20-minute meeting today if we
If we
wouldn't
didn't
have
have
been.
all this, yeah.
That's true. Let's just do it next month at our meeting.
you're on the 8th.
See if they're available.
I'll make it available. I'll make it work. If it doesn't, for some reason, I'll let you know. So you probably just do your regular business, right?
Well,
We'll do
we'll
whatever.
put you on the
We
agenda.
can start a little later in the day, you know? If we can start this meeting involving the 2 executive committees at like 10 or 10:30, that's much more.
Yeah, we don't have that. Jeez, right, the day's half over.
But you're gonna have business anyway, right?
We don't have 2 hours of business. Jeez.
All right, we can do that. Let's say 10 o'clock at our next meeting. We can start at 8:30 or 9. We'll have all our business conducted. And then at 10, we'll sit down and let's call it a negotiating the MOU. Let's address it as that. Even in the MOU, the current one, grandstand is mentioned. we talk about the grandstand, that's fine. Been properly noticed, and we'll call it negotiating the MOU. 10 o'clock
With the Fair Society.
on the 8th. And if that doesn't work, we need to give us another date that does work.
You want that now?
No. If you meet with your client and December 8th isn't going to work, and then you contact us and say that doesn't
Yeah.
work. But when you give us another date.
The next I could do would be like a week before Christmas, so the week starts on the 22nd, 23rd.
As long as there isn't another
21st.
committee meeting.
Nothing that day.
All right, then take the 22nd too. As a
The backup.
alternate meeting.
Mr. Chair, can I?
That one we can start at 12.
You're on vacation.
I would say because we don't know if there's jury trials, we wouldn't want to do that before 9
Well, yeah, or
or 10.
whatever. We just need another, if that day gets canceled, then we're right back where we're at now.
Can I, Mr. Chair, on that 22nd, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be in Chicago. Can I zoom in on that? Participate or?
Yeah. Yep. Actually,
It could be on any day if it's not on the meeting of the executive committee. So if you wanted to keep it away from Christmas, you could do like 20th or
it's just
21st.
we can't meet when another committee is meeting.
Correct. There's no committee on the 21st.
Yes.
Yes, there is. I think there's an environmental.
It has it on my calendar, but that's just.
So for the sake of not just sitting here and arguing back and forth, shall we meet on that day at 10 o'clock?
Yeah, that makes sense, like you say.
Your executive committee and this committee. The executive committee appointed by the county board to handle these
Negotiate.
matters. Negotiate.
So our first is gonna be the next executive committee meeting and then back up in December 21.
If they can't make that meeting, but then we have another date.
They should have.
Yeah.
This was their first draft.
Yeah, so what happened was, a draft was sent to them, then they redlined it in August of 2020 or 2021, I think it was 2020. And they sent it back to Lee.
It never, we did a search of all of our email archives and it never came.
It was sent to somebody, I forget who, and then you asked for it in April when we met. And so we dug it out and we kind of resent it. That's what happened.
Whether or not that continues to be our position or their position.
Because so much time has passed.
But this is what we're working on.
Yeah,
That's a working,
that is, but that is like
So,
2 years old now, you know, and
It's a start.
but it gotta start somewhere, you know what I mean? Like, but I have asked my client, give me a wish list. Tell me what it is the Fair Society wants, like what their desires are, because, you know, it is difficult when you're representing the organization to be like, rather than, is this an individual's desire or is this the organizational desire? So I was like, give me the organization's desires. I've got this list. I will undertake to bring up to date the August 2020 draft before this December 8 meeting, so that then that can be the working draft. We can use it. You know, honestly, we can throw it up on a screen and literally edit it as a group, and then hopefully we can reach consensus on something, and then be like, there it is.
So you're gonna get that to us also ahead of time?
Yeah, I'll send it to Emily and she'll get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get it to- Okay.
What's somewhere to start? But you know, one fly in the ointment there is that I have their desires as of, you know, whatever this document is from like a week ago. Whereas I need them for, I don't know, I think they're gonna change after this election. I doubt they will. But what they, again, I'm reading it from this document that was sent to me. There are 3 things that matter most to the fair board in this new MOU. This is what they want, is that they want to maintain control of the fairgrounds. They want to work collaboratively with the county to have mutual agreement on anything that needs to change or anything that's going to happen. And they want to know how decisions are made, who they're dealing with at the county. They want this to be spelled out in the new MOU because. Yeah, because well, obviously the existing MOU. Is no longer workable because changes have happened, organizational.
Yeah, I feel like that's wordsmithing that we.
Just to clarify, when you say their desire as far as control of the grounds, do they want exclusive control and not allow county staff to have access to inspect and make sure and not do all those things? Is that?
That's a good example of a time that we need someone here to tell what that means, because I don't know, because you guys store stuff at the fair, like. I'm sure you do.
No.
No, I mean, the fair,
No.
the fair is subletting.
All right, let's save some of this. Well, I mean, it is on our agenda, discussion of the fair. MOU, and where we definitely can discuss further, but I don't think without your client here.
Sure.
And I don't think without actual us, it would probably be a closed session. We're negotiating.
Right.
Right now, I mean, we're an open. I think we should leave it where we're at, and I think we should definitely make every effort to get together on 10 o'clock on our next meeting.
All right, well, it's on my calendar. I'll reach out to them, let them know that they, I expect them to be here. And I'm gonna require them to be here on the 8th. If they really can't, then I'll certainly let them know, but otherwise, that's my expectation.
All right, well, I don't think the only thing we have left on our agenda is identify subject matters, or do you feel we need a closed session?
I don't think we need it.
Go back in for the fair, or?
I don't think we do.
I don't know, I think at our next meeting, we can have something on there prior to 10 if we feel we need to discuss it prior to meeting with the Fair Society. All right, any subject matters for our next meeting?
Well, we have the ones already listed, the
Yeah,
ethics, red line version that
yeah,
I didn't get to.
yeah, the MOUs to review.
You'll send us in our packet the ethics language. We have it. beforehand.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So I need to give myself a deadline of, put in your little black book.
Your
By
next meeting
Thanksgiving.
will be the 17th at 9 a.m. in this room. That will be the interview for the clerk.
Right.
But that's not our regular meeting.
No, it's not a regular.
Say that again, Paul?
The 17th, you all will meet here at 9 a.m.
It's Thursday, next Thursday. There you go.
All right, we got one item to go on the agenda.
I move to adjourn.
Don't move.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll stand adjourned at 10:50 something.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad I never had anything to do with that. Yeah.
Great.
I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going on. There's no way.